This episode of the Fairway to Retail Success is brought to you by AGM vendor partner T-Commerce, the online retail solution for golf facilities. T-Commerce helps merchandisers and golf professionals expand sales beyond the physical shop and fill merchandising gaps. Give your members and customers the convenience of shopping online 24/7, all with no extra inventory risk or additional work for your staff. Visit tcommerce.shop to learn how easy it is to take your shop online. Now, back to today's episode. Hello, AGM members, and welcome back to the Fairway to Retail Success, an AGM podcast. I'm your host, Justine Cook. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer Roddy, Vice President of the AGM and the Merchandise Manager at Hyatt Regency Lost Pines Resort and Spa in Austin, Texas. Jennifer has worked in the golf industry and has been an AGM member for over 30 years and is also a certified retail manager graduate. Jennifer has spent 29 of those years with Hyatt Hotels in both Austin and San Antonio, contributing to multiple property openings and consulting for several other golf operations throughout her career. In addition to her work with Hyatt, she operates the Central Texas Golf and Resort Show, a regional biannual event connecting vendors and buyers across the industry. Jennifer also currently serves as our co-chair for the AGM's Education Committee. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got started in the golf industry and kind of what led you to your current role at Lost Pines?
Sure. I started really young in the tennis industry. I started working at country clubs when I was 13. So probably there's some child labor laws broken at some point, but I started working in tennis and then I got involved with the Gap and worked for Gap stores, Gap Kids in the late 80s, early 90s. And my husband was at the time getting a master's degree. And so he was working at a tennis shop at night. And so I would go and sit with them and fold clothes and do the gap fold and, merchandise. And finally, that led to a full-time job with them. And it was a big tennis operation in Fort Worth. And when we were moving to Austin, the golf pro set me aside and said, okay, you need to look for a job in golf because that's where your future is going to be. And so sure enough, went to Austin. Barton Creek, I guess, was hiring, or maybe I just sought them out. I don't remember, but luckily got a job with them as an assistant merchandiser and just learned. It was such a great team, really an exciting place to be at that time, especially. And so I learned a lot from the buyer there. And that was my first introduction to the AGM, actually, because she was a member. And then one of the golf pros was moving to the Hyatt property in San Antonio. And so I applied and became the lead buyer at that property back in 93. So a long time ago, which was super fun. And of course, I made a lot of mistakes, obviously, as a new buyer with so young, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but it was great. We had a wonderful team, and I worked there for 8 years and then left to be a sales rep for a few years and decided I wanted to come back to buying, went back to Hyatt Hill Country. And then when Hyatt Lost Pines opened in Austin, I moved up there and I've been there ever since 20 years. We have celebrate 20 years this year.
Amazing. Very cool. So, you've been there since the property opened.
Since the property opened, so I've gotten to open 3 Hyatt properties, which is really fun. So Hyatt Hill Country, San Antonio, Hyatt Lost Pines, and then there's a Hyatt in Maryland that I opened kind of during that time I was a sales rep. I did a lot of consulting and opened it then. So that's kind of been my passion. I've opened a few more properties around town and during that consulting period. So that's been a lot of fun, but I just have enjoyed that. Hyatt has been such a great company to work for, so I'm very lucky.
Very cool. I'd imagine that's probably a pretty cool experience being part of a new property opening and really meaningful and impactful.
Yeah, you build such great relationships with the people that you go through that process with because it's long hours and so fun and so exciting. And it's just really, I still have a group text from my original days at Hyatt Hill Country that we all keep in touch and see each other at the PGA shows and that kind of thing. So it's just so fun. And it's really fun to be a part of, to see it from literally construction. You're wearing hard hats to the opening day and all the golfers there. And it's exciting.
Very cool. Very cool. And I know you mentioned getting first getting involved with the AGM. So kind of want to talk more about that and what inspired you to pursue getting more involved in our organization, pursuing a leadership role like you have now. What kind of was that experience like?
Yeah, so I got involved, like I said, really early. At 1994 is when I officially joined. And at that time, I was at Hyatt Hill Country. And really, I was just seeking out education for my role there and seeking out relationships and people to network with. And which is exactly what the AGM is all about. And that was just such a great decision to be a part of it. And then as I got more involved, I really wanted to volunteer and try to learn from the executive directors and learn from the board members. And so I said, I'm willing. And they said, okay, here you go. So kept giving me little things to do. In fact, I found an e-tailer from the 90s. I had written an article as the chairman of the Career Services Committee, which I
Uh,
completely forgot about. So anything they had, I would raise my hand and be like, okay, think I can do that. Anyway, it's been so fun, and I've made so many great relationships with people in the industry, in the AGM, and I met my mentors there, and so it's been a great place to be a part of, and means so much to me personally as well as professionally.
Yes, yes. When you were saying that about raising your hand and saying, I feel like that is similar to what we say in the education committee now. Some of the folks say they're voluntold what
Right,
what they're going to
exactly,
help with. Once you raise your hand, be ready to
exactly.
be voluntold what you're going to volunteer for.
Yeah. And it was so good for me because what I didn't have was an assistant buyer or
Mm,
any staff that was going through the same thing I was going through. And know the buyers necessarily in my area, or I didn't travel with them. It was a time when I would show up to seminars or conferences and I wouldn't know anybody. And so
mhm.
really that was also a way to just get to know people, was to feel like I was needed and be a part of something. So that was just a great way to kind of feel comfortable when I went, because I knew, okay, I'm here to work. I know how
Yes,
to do that. So
yes,
it's
yes,
good.
absolutely. And now, currently, you are our vice president of the AGM. What does that role mean to you, both personally and professionally?
It it's a big responsibility as we go into the future. And I've seen so many fun years with the AGM, and I'm so excited for what we're doing right now and what I know we will do, some of our strategic planning. So that's been really exciting to be a part of. And I want to leave an impact on it and on the organization and on the people there. And I want to help make it better and learn from mistakes and go forward with what we know. And just being a part of the organization in any capacity has been great for me. I love the AGM and what it's meant to me. It's been such a huge part of my career, really. I can in the golf industry and in my Hyatt career, it's twofold, but the AGM
Mm,
is such a big part of that. So I just want to serve and take it to the next level.
yes, yes, absolutely. And I know you mentioned you spent some time as a sales representative, which I think is always really interesting when folks go to the other side of the table and get different experience, whichever side they're coming from, and then maybe go
Mhm.
back to their roots. What was it like coming from a merchandiser buyer to working on that other side of the table as a sales rep?
It was not as glamorous as I thought it would be. Staying in motels throughout southern Texas was not as fun as I thought it might be. But no, it was harder than I thought. There was a big lesson in humility for sure, because when you're on this side of the aisle or this side of the table, you think, oh, I know how to show a line, or I know how to do this. And really, it's just so different. But I learned, it helped me once I went back to buying. It certainly helped me with my relationships with my sales reps and with that side with vendors, really trying to be true partners with them. It's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the Central Texas show, because I know how hard it is to travel. I only did it for 3 years, so I don't know, like some of our long-term sales reps know, but I did it for 3 years. I had two little kids. I was trying to schedule everything, and that is really hard to do. So you're at the beck and call of every country club or resort that you sell to. I love being a part of trying to connect the two sides together.
Mhm.
It's not for the faint of heart, but it is fun, and as anything in the industry is fun. So
Right.
whatever side you decide to land on is great.
Sure. And what advice might you give to someone who's maybe considering a role in a different area of their business, whether the sales rep side or more of at a vendor as a more in their HQ offices and operations? Is it worth giving it a go? What would you recommend?
I think so, definitely. The golf industry is so special. And if you can make something work financially, it's so exciting to try new things and experiencing different sides of our business will just help you be stronger in whatever
Mm,
you decide to land on later. So I do think it's great. And I would have loved to have worked for a vendor actually in the offices at some
right.
point because that would give me a whole nother perspective. But I feel I've been lucky, even though I worked for the same company for almost 30 years, but in that company and in my free time or whatever, been able to see different sides of the business. But yeah, I do think that if you can make it work, try new things, be open to it, and you can always go back.
Exactly. Exactly. And it gives a more well-rounded experience, I think, sometimes
Yeah,
for wherever you end up.
definitely. Definitely.
So, as a longtime AGM member, how have you really seen the golf merchandising industry evolve over the years? What changes stand out to you the most that we've seen in golf retail in the last 5, 10, 15 years, or even further out?
I was going to say in 30 years. I remember when we had to fax orders in. I remember the first time we got internet and email. So it's definitely changed quite a bit. But I think that there's so much that has changed and there's a lot that has stayed the same. So technology has shown us all the changes as far as how we communicate, how we order, how we even find new brands. Now I'm as likely to find a brand on Instagram, see who's following them, and see what the buzz is as anything else. That part of the business has changed quite a bit. And it's fun to learn from younger people that maybe have their pulse on something that I haven't seen yet. So that's been really fun. And then like technology and fabrics has changed so much since I started. And that's exciting to watch and just to see new ways to create a performance fabric that feels like cotton or a cotton fabric that doesn't shrink and is wrinkle free or whatever it is. There's so many things that our vendors can bring to the table. So that's been really exciting to watch. And then just see how the trends are cyclical, which is fun to
Mm.
watch styles come back. And there's been change, but then the part that stays the same is the relationship side of the business. And that part has been and always will be, I think, in our industry, such a key factor in how we do business.
Yes, without a doubt. And what do you think about buyer education? I know we're all about education here. You're on the education committee. What are your thoughts on buyers' hunger, for lack of a better word, for education? Is that something you see that has stayed the same over the past years, or have you seen it come cyclical where different things are important at different times to buyers?
I've seen, from my perspective, I think that we are always trying to learn. And so sometimes you're hungry for it because it's not readily available. And then sometimes you're hungry for it and there are so many options. And so I think right now we're in this wave of there's a lot to choose from and a lot of great places to get your information from. The AGM, of course, is my favorite place to get information, which I still do all the time and did the certified retail manager program just a couple of years ago. And so that's exciting. That's something we hadn't offered before. So that training was really good. And the way that the education committee has been working on the manual and the AGM staff putting the manual online and having it be interactive and a living, breathing document, that's exciting. So there's so many choices out there, and it really just is up to us as individuals to seek it out. But do feel like the hunger probably has always been there, but you don't know what you don't know. And so
Mm,
back in the day, back in the 30 years ago, we only knew what was right around us. And so
mhm.
there's just so much open to us right now. It's exciting.
Sure, that almost makes me think of how you were saying there's so much information out there. There's also so many brands out there now. There's so many options, so many new emerging small brands or brands that weren't native to golf. And we saw them for the first time at the PGA show. So there's so many options. I think that is something that we have in excess and have at our fingertips. Is there something for everyone, for every customer, for every budget, for anything you might need in your shop? It's out there now.
Yes, that's a great thing and can also be a challenge. I think that's one of our challenges as merchandisers is we need to see it all and be aware of it all. And that's why the PGA show is such a great spot to do that. The product preview at the AGM conference is such a great way to do that. So we need to know as experts, we need to know what is available for our customer. And then it's our job to figure out what makes sense for our operation and our business. So it's exciting, but it's also a challenge, I would say.
Yes, yes. And I'm glad you mentioned the merchandise manual. You were the lead person spearheading that project, and I would encourage our members, if they haven't checked out the digital version of the merchandise manual that used to be a hard copy, essentially, to check it out on our AGM website. There's so much great content that's been refreshed by our education committee this year, so definitely recommend checking that out.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see that come to fruition. And it's still in the works. So we have
Yes.
more sections to come, and it's not complete, nor will it ever be complete, really, because as information changes, education changes, we get more videos or more things to pop in. We have such a talented staff that knows how to do that. I don't know how to do that. Someone else will. But that's the exciting part is it's not just a notebook to sit on your shelf
It's like
all the time.
Mhm. It's a living, breathing thing that will keep updating forever.
Definitely, definitely. It's exciting.
How do you approach mentoring others in the golf industry? Are there key lessons that you really hope to pass along to the next generation of retail leaders in golf?
Yeah, I've probably mentioned a few of them here already, but I
Yes.
do try to be a mentor and a sounding board for people I work with and just friends in the industry as they are for me. I mentioned my mentors earlier, Vicki Bernstein and Ken Morton Jr. that I met through the AGM. Both of them are fantastic retailers and I've been able to rely on them throughout my career for advice and ideas and sometimes just as a friend, just I'm trying to make this decision. Can you help me with these options? So that has been just a huge blessing in my life. And I try to do that for other people. And we are starting a mentorship program with the AGM, which is really exciting. That's to come, but that'll be a really great tool, I think, for us. But some of the lessons that I would impart, and I think I've mentioned them here, but literally they're very cliche, but don't sweat the small stuff. This is a fun industry and is should bring you joy because that's what we're all about. We're all about golf and having our customers are having fun and we're just adding to their experience by providing them a souvenir to take home. So there are definitely we have stresses in our life and we're multitasking and we wear so many hats, but try to look beyond that and just take a deep breath and whatever the bad logo that turned up or the missed ship date or something, it's not going to matter in a year or 5 years. So just try to take enjoyment for every day that you're able to be part of this great industry. And then the other lesson is just keep learning. And I know we already talked about that. Always be learning as any from people, from friends, from the AGM, from the PGA, anything that you can, even from mainstream retailers, anything you can learn, no matter what your experience level is, will benefit you professionally and personally. So I think that is my other you never should go into a meeting or never should go into a seminar thinking, oh, I already know this. I've been doing
Right.
this so long. I know everything. No, you don't. We have change, things that pop up that maybe we don't know how to handle. And we always need to be looking for answers throughout our career. So that's my little bits of wisdom I've learned over the years.
I love all that. Thank you for sharing. Are there any challenges in golf retail today that you think might be overlooked? Things that are maybe happening now or we are seeing that will be happening in the near future? And how do you recommend that folks maybe navigate something that you're seeing?
I think I touched on a little bit of that and just the amount of choices that we have.
Mm.
That was a common theme in some of the roundtable discussions we had at the conference and even in our education committee about being able to say no and while maintaining a good relationship with each vendor. And a lot of people, or a couple of people, mentioned using a vendor scorecard, which we actually have available in the manual. I printed out 12 of them the other day to start
Uh,
filling out. But I think making data-driven decisions is our job. And so that vendor scorecard or something like it will really help. And it's not a personal decision if you have to skip a season, but just be honest with the sales rep and be honest with, you want to look at the line, but you probably are not going to be writing at this time. So let them choose if they have time to see you or not. But
mm,
I think that's one of our challenges is the amount of choices we have is wonderful and also can be challenging. And I think there's uncertainty in the world. And so just trying to stay ahead of your pre-books and figuring out what you need and when you need it, just keeping organized and keeping on top of that is going to be key, I think, going forwards.
great.
But I think that the main thing really is just the time management is also another thing I think we struggle with, or I struggle with. Maybe no one else does. I do because we're wearing so many different hats. We have a lot of pulling us in different directions.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all that. For someone considering deeper involvement in the AGM, maybe someone in our community wants to be involved, part of a committee or other volunteer opportunities, what advice would you offer them in taking the first step to get more involved?
I would say start with reaching out to the AGM staff and letting them know that you would like to volunteer, or reach out to your regional
Mm.
board of director or your regional liaison, and which the staff can give you that name as well. And to let them know, reach out to me, anyone that you know that's connected with the AGM, that's the place to start. And I guarantee you that if someone volunteers and says they're willing, we will find a spot for them.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Always happy to have help and folks involved as much as they are able to.
Yes,
Thank
sign
you.
up with you specifically for
Yes.
conference the day before.
Yes, always need extra hands
Always
leading
need,
up to the retail conference when we're all on site in Orlando.
for sure, for sure.
So, as we wrap up here, looking ahead, what's next for you and your retail program? Are there any new initiatives, vendors, goals you're really excited about at your property for 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, so we're gearing up right now for our season, our spring break and then summer season, which is always really fun. We're getting the pool ready and the merchandise for the pool and the merchandise for the gift shop changes from winter to summer. And that's fun. So in the golf shop, we're looking to bring in some new vendors for spring and then we have new vendors for fall. And we're trying to make it a point to experiment with some new people that we have seen at the shows. So that's exciting. I can't wait to see how our customer responds. And we bring in just a small amount, 36 pieces, something like that, but just enough to make a little presence and maybe have the story available. We'll let our staff know why we brought it in and what we thought was exciting about it so that they can tell that to our customer. And so that'll be fun. We also celebrate 20 years of being in business this year. So that's going to be fun celebration this summer. And we'll be doing some special merchandise for that in the golf shop. But I'm really personally trying to work on, as I said before, some data-driven decisions. And so we're looking a lot at our dollar per round and looking at turns. And I've recently moved out a few fixtures out of the shop to make it feel a little more open. So we're experimenting with that, but that just means I have to really be on it because we need to continue to fill those fixtures and make sure that we're still selling the same amount. And we have a goal this year that's a personal goal and a professional goal, but that's a little higher than it has been. So we're trying really hard to see where we can make that up. But but I'm excited. I'm always excited at the beginning of the year. Ask me
Yes.
again in October. I'll just probably be tired, but no, the year is so fun. You have the PGA show that sort of sets it off, and you have the retail conference, and then the show, and all of that's so exciting. And then I had our regional show a couple of weeks ago, and you get to see all the new lines, and there's just so much buzz at the beginning of the year. So
Yes.
this is always a fun time for me.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And just curious about how many new vendors do you try or like to bring in a given year? Would you say that you
Um,
test out?
it not more than four, but sometimes
Okay.
it can be like this spring for sure. We have a new men's line, Vivid, and then a new ladies line, The Bubble. And
Okay.
so, and then in fall, we're bringing back a vendor we haven't had in a while, Puma for some outerwear, and then a couple that we saw at the PGA show, TBD, but we're still looking at. But we definitely have some room to play with. We just like everybody, you have your core vendors, but it is fun to bring in something new and just see how it'll sell. So we're excited. We're doing something a little different with ladies too this year, which
Okay.
I'll let you know how it goes. But we have found that we don't have as many just women playing golf. We mainly women that are here that want a souvenir. And so they want a logoed polo or outerwear piece, particularly an outerwear piece. And so we're experimenting with changing up our mix a little bit, but we'll still offer golf, obviously, but we're bringing in some Lululemon and trying to try a few different styles within our current vendors, more athleisure, trying to go that route, I think will help a little bit.
Very
Always
cool.
learning and always
Yes.
changing. Gotta be
Yes.
flexible.
Yes. Trying new things and new vendors and an anniversary sounds like a great year to do that. So lots
Mhm.
of fun things, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us for this conversation today. It was so fun chatting about your career, being involved with the AGM, and all the fun things you have going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Justine. And this has been so exciting to watch the development. I guess you've been over a year now doing your podcast. You
Yes.
started it
Yes.
in 2025 at the conference, retail
Yes.
conference. It's just been exciting to watch and just another avenue that we are growing and changing. And you've done a great job with it.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We're proud.
Thank you.
We're proud of you and proud of the whole staff has done for the AGM.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And thank you for all your help along the way and the education committee. We couldn't do it without you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Fairway to Retail Success. We so appreciate you taking some time to join us for this conversation and hope you will join us again soon in our next episode. Take care, everyone.